See what's going on with this thing.
So this man has hopped on the call and started eating a Rice Krispie treat.
I'm sponsored. I didn't tell you about that.
You're
Everyone,
spo-
by the way, I'm sponsored by Kellogg. We have Rice Krispie treat.
Kellogg went on strike earlier, right? You had all those people. So you want to be sponsored by a brand that treats their workers horribly. That's not modeling and power narratives, dog. That
We
I,
sat
I
down.
honestly,
Getting treated.
We sat down. We had a meeting about it. They looked me dead in my eyes. They said, "Listen, you're not a worker." I said, "You know what? You're right. I'm not a worker." That was the end of it.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Modeling and Power Narratives podcast. I'm your co-host, Jordan Flowers.
I'm Jacob Hale.
And I'm Trey Mosley.
It's back, man. We back and better, man. My guys, we back for another episode, man.
Bad and bougie.
Bad and bougie, Jesus Christ. But man, we back for another episode. It was a successful episode that we just dropped on the YouTube with me and Hale. If you haven't checked that out, check that out. Supporting your friends part 2, because y'all didn't want to let me in on that first part 1, which I had a great episode. So check that one out too. Check out both of them episodes. Check out.
The only thing I have to say about that is that look, you see now that I have a haircut. I got see look, yep. Look at all
I didn't
that.
even get to.
See?
I didn't even get into the
what I
check-in
wanted,
before
right?
he talking about a haircut. It's like he calling me out because he see I don't got one. But that's for another time, bro. Since you want to point out that you got a haircut and I don't, I'm not about to stand for that right now. But before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure to subscribe, like, share, and comment. We got a new episode up on YouTube, so make sure that you push that content out for us. We appreciate all the support. So all of our episodes will be, from moving forward, will be available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So if you want to be an audio person and you want to see the video, I mean, you got all those options, and they'll be in a link tree. So make sure you support and push out our content. But with that being said, man, let's do
It's free.
subscribe, please. It helps us push out more content. It's free. The support is free, and we need it. It.
We're further.
But to get into some stuff, man, I just want to do some quick check-ins, man. I'll start with you, Trey. How we feeling today? And can you name something positive from this week?
Something positive from this week, man. I got a nice little 5-day weekend. I was getting slammed last weekend, and I got to work next weekend. So I got this little 5 days. I'm finna get the golf game going a little bit, going tomorrow, and I'm going to the Blues game tomorrow night. We're living life, man.
So,
Nice, man.
Before I get into asking Hell, that sound like rich people problems. One, who has a little 5-day weekend?
That's crazy.
Hell, have you ever had a little 5-day weekend? Do you get a little 5-day weekend, and do you get to go golfing?
No.
Or
Not
am
since
I remiss?
graduated.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say it though, man. But it's good to hear that you're doing good things, and you obviously we talked about a little bit what you got going on with getting that education that you need to get for becoming a nurse, man. We're very, very proud of you. But hell, man, how we feeling today? Can you name something positive from this week that's happened in your life?
Yeah, well, I think this would be great. One of these days I'm probably going to look back into this. But as you can see, I am in actually my work attire, right? So
right
now we just started and it's 10 o'clock right now. I got off work at about like 8 p.m., 8:30, somewhere around that range. And then got to be here to where now we're ready to record and everything. Yeah, it's been a very hectic week. It's been a hectic entire month, really, with this project and trying to get everything out. And the silver lining to that was it was a small little event today where not my boss, but more my boss's boss was there, and he understood all the crazy hours I've been working, and he pretty much congratulated me. He said, you don't know because you're just you're working, you're helping out, but like you helped us way more than you helped yourself with doing this project and stuff. So it felt really great to be appreciated and to know that there's a lot of people that are looking down and I'm actually helping them. So that would
Look
probably
at
be
you, man. Look at so we got a dude that's taking 5-day weekends, taking golf trips. We got a dude that's getting overworked, but getting paid very well. I don't want to ever, you know what I'm saying? You're a workaholic.
Listen, last
Go
week, oh man, you won't believe it. Last week, I clocked in 67 hours. Yeah, straight 67 hours.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. We just gonna leave it at that. That's insane.
Yeah. No, nothing.
That's
nothing
insane.
else to say about that, man. I'm just happy to be here.
For sure. Happy to be here, man. That's a great quote. But for me, man, I'm feeling very uplifted. I'm feeling very blessed, very pompous, very, you know what I'm saying? Like I got a ring light in.
Pompous, vocab word of the day.
Yeah, man, vocab word definitely in there. Got a ring light in. I thought it would make me look more light skinned. Didn't really get that. Got the tapestry in the back because I realized that the setup last time on the video wasn't just kind of like what I wanted to reflect on my life. So this was in the budget for me, but yeah, we kind of got this going, and something positive for this week. My nephew, man, and hell knows, like y'all see me post my nephew quite a bit because he's just a god. He's just a handful.
To get some girls.
Nah, man, stop. We not. Hey, listen, if you watching this, that is not true. That's not true, man. But nah, he just. I was playing with him a little bit, and like every time I turn the flash on with him, I think it was like a couple days ago. I turned the flash on with him. He turned around and say cheese. You know what I'm saying? So that's my little man. He make me happy. It's the first time that like I had a male in the household because my dad didn't live in the house with me. So like, when Jasmine comes over with Lil Man, that's like the highlight of my week. But with that being said,
no. Unless that kid's mowing grass, bro. I don't know if you can throw that in there. All right,
So I got to work.
He starts making his own sandwiches.
He's 2.
Then you can start throwing that there's another man in the house. But now it's just an infant.
If you see how big, if you see how big he was, then you'll really know that that's a grown man in a 2-year-old's body. But with that being said, man, let's get into to what the episode, man. Before we get into the episode, I would like to give a shout out to Mark Hicks brand. Get at him for all your exclusive sneaker needs, including pre-orders on upcoming sneaker drops. You'll follow his business page on Instagram at Mark Hicks Vault, and or his personal page at Marco Polo 23, and the link for his websites is in his bio. So get at him if you're a sneakerhead like me and Trey. That's the guy to go to. It's the real stand-up guy. Obviously, he watches this and support. If you're watching this, Marcus, just know I'm coming from them red and white 11s. I think I mentioned it last episode, but I'm coming from them red and white 11s, so I will be putting in my pre-order with you. So.
And everybody who likes dunks, he get you some dunks too.
Get you some dunks, man. He has those.
Dunks. He can get them.
He posted like something up, like somebody was selling like the Panda dunks for like $500. Insane. Please don't ever pay that price for no Panda dunks. But he does have like these vaults, like these what do you call them, bro? Where you could like try to win a prize. You kind of put like. God, it's like a claw machine, but it's not a claw machine. Yeah, like the key vaults thing. So he has a couple of those around the city and in our malls, and he got some out there. So you got people that get in there and drop $5 and wins like some crazy shoes, but won't be me though, bro. I'm gonna just pay my little $350 or $400, whatever you charging me for what I need. So, but let's get into the topic of the day, man. This is the one for me. I always look forward to this. Obviously, with Summer of Self-Awareness, we wanted to touch on these topics, but in this episode, I look forward to. So building intrinsic motivation, right? So when we talk about intrinsic motivation, we talking about internal and external locus of control, right? So internal locus of control being I control my own destiny. So like my life outcomes are solely in my control on what I do, with external being the control of my destiny is outside of my body and is determined by outside forces. So both of these psychological concepts go hand in hand with intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, right? It's kind of like that same deal. So to lead into what the conversation, I'll start with you, Hell. When is a time that you looked outside of yourself for motivation to go after something using extrinsic motivation? And can you elaborate and explain that situation?
Well, I guess I could start off with explaining, my perspective of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Yeah, so I always think of it as my why. And
Right.
I've heard that through sports. I got it through sport. I didn't come up with that on my own, but basically the concept is that when you wake up in the morning, let's say you're tired, you're sore, but there's things that you have to do. What is it that's getting you out of bed? And then of what it is, what is that is about you, and then what is that is about other people. So some people get out of bed,
Right.
they don't want to go to work. Well, internal could be, I need to make money. I want to be able to stay in this apartment or this house that I'm in. And then external could be, I may have a significant other. I have to support and make sure I have my side of the money every month. Or maybe I have a kid. I have to be able to support him or her. So
So,
those are,
but I'm gonna push back on you. I'm gonna push back on you a little bit, just with the external, like,
yeah,
but because money can be used externally, so that's outside of our body. So, like, if I'm going for something that's tangible, right? That's kind of could be. I'm talking more so like with the motivation within yourself, but it can be viewed as intrinsic and external. But I just wanted to
yeah.
kind of distinguish the fact that they can be both, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not as all black and white as you would think. It's definitely blurred lines most of the time when it comes with that. It really just depends
Right.
on your mindset and your perspective on it. Yeah, I
So,
use money as an example, but money could be internal, could be external, could be all over the place. It can change whenever you need to, of
so
course.
with that, so like, what is a time that you looked outside of yourself for that motivation? Like using extrinsic motivation, like you looked outside of yourself to be motivated to go after something. Like, have you had a situation like that
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
can think of?
yeah, definitely. There's there's definitely a few, but a good way to describe it is there are times, especially in sports, where I have to look outside because, for better or for worse, I was never that into sports. While playing it,
Right,
I was blessed enough to get a scholarship and to continue athletics and stuff, but football was never my main focus. It just never was. So there was a
right,
lot of times where I didn't even want to do it for me because I wasn't interested in it. There's other things I wanted to do, but there is an external focus. There's an external that people were benefiting from that gave me the motivation to want to keep going out there.
right. And to keep you motivated to keep going after what you. And we're gonna touch base on that, the sports culture and how external motivation, later in the episode. But I want to panel you, Trey, and offer you that same question. Whenever you use extrinsic motivation, like that motivation outside of yourself to go after something or to attain some type of goal that you had in your life.
I would definitely say me like playing college football and me going to college and getting a degree. That was motivated by my brother because I wanted to be a good role model for my brother. I wanted my brother to know that like this is what you do. Like we're gonna go play college football. You're gonna go
Right.
get a degree. We're gonna be successful. It's not like not saying that you can't be successful without going to college, but I just wanted to set a great foundation that he knew like this is what I wanted to do. These are the steps that I'm gonna do because I seen my brother do it. And I know that he did that. So now I want to do something better than him, almost motivating him
Right.
while he's motivating me.
So when we talking about like, especially when we talking about extrinsic motivation, like you guys have just given two examples of like stuff that we both probably can, or all three of us can relate to in that sense. And there's a couple times that I've used extrinsic motivation, like trying to prove people wrong, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
what it means for me. So, and you kind of like want to like, man, like that person doubted me. I'm trying to, what I'm saying? I'm trying to get into that, but it's a slippery slope. Like I want to go for something higher than myself to prove like the doubt is wrong. Right. And it goes into my next point of why I think extrinsic motivation is like, I kind of compare it to like fuel, like petroleum gas, like for gas cars. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
there's some good that could come about as well, like using extrinsic motivation. Y'all have talked about how y'all have used it, right? So we just spoke to a few instances where like external motivation propelled us forward to go towards something or attain a goal. In what ways can you see extrinsic motivation and or using an outside factor to motivate you be beneficial? And I'll start with you, Trey. Like how can like extrinsic motivation be a pro and not more so of a con? What is some elements that you can take from that?
I think that like extrinsic motivation can be a pro by like making you pass your limits, like going further than what you thought you could do in the first place. Like for instance, say you're in the gym working out with your team and it's competition day and you guys are competing against each other. Those you not wanting to come in last and you wanting to beat the guy next to you is that extrinsic motivation that would pass you further than what you thought you could get to.
Absolutely. Like it's just like you saying your competitor, especially when with being competitors, right? It's like, man, I'm looking at this guy next to me. He ain't gonna beat me, bro. Like I just got that much
Right.
pride and joy, especially with people like us, like I said, that play sports. So we're looking outside of ourselves in a way of like it can push you past your limits. That's a real pro, right? Like it's like nah, like it goes with the old saying, my haters are my motivators, right? Or
Right.
just being competitive in a sense, like I'm gonna push past what I probably would have did if you wasn't here, right? So that's definitely a pro for you. Hell, like how can you use or what can be a pro of extrinsic motivation, in your sense?
Uh, a good example for me, I'd say a really good example of extrinsic motivation is, and it's kind of piggybacking off of what you said, but um, I think it's very great to have that sense of competition. And
Right.
for example, with our group chat and everything that's going on, it's really nice to see that everyone's doing well in life or is keep progressing. And that in and of itself motivates us to keep going and progressing in our lives because everyone around us, good things seem to be happening to them. Their lives seem to be getting better. So it makes you want to make your life better.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's kind of like, man, like it's almost like you said, like it's like, dang, I'm kind of seeing people that I grew up with or I'm around, and they elevating themselves in a way, right? And we could talk about that. That'll be another episode of like having cultivating and crafting your environment to help you grow and being around inspiring people to feel inspired. But and sticking with extrinsic motivation, like it's a huge factor that I think a lot of us use in the world, because it's like we like and it kind of goes in with my theory on American capitalism, right? It kind of breeds competition, right? I have to be better than you by any means necessary. I got to kind of beat you at whatever game, especially if we in the same field, right? And so it like you said, like Trey said, it pushes you past your limits. And I can even remember like early on for me, coming back from injury, since we on this topic of sports, like I wasn't really trying to prove myself right. Like obviously I can speak to that now and I'll get into that a little bit later, but like I was like, man, like all these people was giving up on me. Like I had
Yeah,
the
like I'm gonna show them I got more left in the
right,
tank.
I got more left in the
Yeah.
tank, and it was like a lot of decisions that I had made was more so like, nah, they gonna hear it from me. Like I'm just sitting. I remember like nights sitting in his bed, and I took 2 years off of football, obviously with the two injuries, and it was like, man, I'm just steaming in my bed. Like people don't even know. Like I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna show them, and like, but I was so motivated to prove everybody wrong because I feel like everybody had like written me off. Like I ain't seen this dude. You got a hamstring injury. We don't hear that too many from coming back, and the chances were very low from it. So it was like, nah. Especially the doctor, like they're like, man, we don't see this too many, too often. People bouncing back from it. I was like, nah, I'm gonna show you, especially in my 18-year-old mind. So it could be a pro. It could be a pro tool. It's a great motivational tool to prove doubters wrong and chasing, obsessing over that idea of achieving that goal to finally be able to have that like, I told y'all so moment, like that me against the world mentality and motivation spawn into like it could get into an obsession though and become addictive in a sense though. So that leads into my next question: do you believe that pop culture and sports culture plays a role in romanticizing or making something seem better or more appealing than the reality of it, in the sense of making the importance of using extrinsic motivation? Like, do you think that pop culture and sports romanticizes to the sense where, like, dang, I'm trying to prove everybody wrong? And I'll let you speak to that, Hell. What role do you think sports and pop culture play in getting people to kind of buy into extrinsic motivation and being extrinsically motivated?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that actually. I think we already talked about the positives, so I won't dwell too
We can
much
say,
on
yeah.
that. Yeah, talking into pop culture and sports and stuff, I think it's very important with extrinsic motivation that you have to make sure that your reasoning behind it or how you're using it is geared towards a positive thing. And
Right.
where pop culture and sports tend to get it wrong is that everything is going to be pushed as extrinsic motivation, whether good or bad. And the big issue is that you see a lot of people take a lot of the bad as
Right.
extrinsic motivation and use that to their advantage. So there's a lot of people is that I want to be successful just so I can go back to people who are doing less than me and show them that I'm better than them in a negative way. Like, it's not bringing any benefit to you. You just want to look down on people just to look down on people. And there's plenty of more examples on that. Is that, I want to do something. Well, we'll just say for what it is, like I want to do something illegal, not for the sake of doing something illegal, but because that they show it as being hard. They show it as being a leader. They show it as something to be feared. And that's what I want. I want a certain level of respect, just like I see those people get respect. And those people are doing illegal activities, so now I have to do it. That's a very dangerous mindset to have. And it's one of the biggest major flaws in pop culture that I've seen, is that there's so many people out there that sit there and they'll listen to this. They'll listen to these interviews and stuff, and they'll want to be just like them, to the fact that it's like, it's not benefiting anything in society. It's not helping anyone. And then they carry it down to the next generation. Is that, well, this rapper told me to do this, so now this is the life that you have to live. And now you don't even have a choice.
Right.
It eliminates all sense of choice. And now it's just follow the leader and have the blind lead the blind. And I think that's a very negative impact and a big con of extrinsic motivation that people need to look out for.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about cons a little bit too. But before I shift to you, Trey, I want to kind of speak to and piggyback off what you said, Held, is like, I think a lot of people, especially in the rap culture and the black culture and a lot of things that we do, I love it, bro, because we express our pain and how we've overcome stuff, right? So I think it's a blessing in that. But in saying that though, like, and it goes to say, like, we apply like what's happening at a celebrity level to our normal lives. Like normal people thinking like, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, man, I got to go out here and I can't go out here and just be better for myself. I got to make sure other people feel that, hey, yeah, I'm that guy. And I'm going to let you know, and I'm going to make you feel it. I'm going to chase after whatever I'm trying to go to. So like you said, hell, I can let you know, like, yeah, I made it. I'm whatever on y'all, man. Like I'm that guy. And it's cool to have that confidence, because obviously we preach that confidence, but not in a way where it's condescending or I'm pushing it upon people like, man, like this is something that you can't attain and only I can have it. I think that's where people have it wrong in that sense, right? And I think we just as normal everyday people kind of apply that to our lives. Like the rappers doing it, so like why don't we do it in sports? It's like it's the same thing we've talked about in sports. We felt it too. Like so many people have probably doubted us on the way and we've proven them wrong. Like, yeah, like to have that I told you so moment, like that's some great motivation to have. But like you said, it's a slippery slope because it become an obsession and addictive. It has so many addictive qualities. So with that being said, Trey, I want to shift into you. Like, in what way do you think pop culture and plays and sports too romanticizes extrinsic motivation?
I think they all try to make it romantic to where it's like you hear it in all the songs. Like I came from the mud, I came from the bottom, started from the bottom, all those other things. And it's like when they did that, it gives people false pretenses like, oh, well, they were all the way at the bottom and they got to the top in like 24 hours or a month or a year, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they make it seem like it wasn't that far, and then like it almost like it unmotivates you because you're like, how come they can do it and I can't do it? He does the same things I do. Why is he there?
That is a fact. I'm glad that you brought that up because it can be like, dang, why am I not blowing yet? Like, why am I not blowing up? I'm doing the same thing.
Doing the same stuff as him, things like that.
And I think the one thing that y'all speaking to sincerely is like selling. I'm not into selling dreams without the work, bro. The work is so separate, and a lot of things is by chance and opportunity. Like it's not who you know what you know. It's sometimes who you know. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Being in the right place at the right time to blow. Like it's God's timing too. And so, like you said, it can be some type of like taken away from you. Like dang, like I'm not that. Like, dang, like, but I'm gonna listen to his music though. But I think it romanticizes it, and for me, is that like we got to be able to distinguish the fact, and hell, we've talked about this before. We got to be able to distinguish the fact that celebrities romanticize these things, and sports icons that we idolize in American culture, they romanticize these things because but they the 1%. the 1% of the 1%, and that's not the normal everyday person. And me and Hell talked about, like I said, I've talked about this specific example I'm talking about. There's people I know, and people probably that like, man, they had a 9-to-5 job, which I work one. Go get your money. I'm advertising that. But like, get your money. Go get your money for sure. But that's like, man, like y'all can never be me. Y'all this, that, and the third. It's like, bro, sister, bro, you don't gotta be that. You know what I'm saying? You could just walk into your blessings and be okay with that. Like, there's nobody that's waking up that's just like, man, I hope that maybe they are, but there's nobody that's just like waiting on your downfall as you work like you're just a normal human being. That's okay. But is it, like you said, it's that false pretense? Like and that talks about narcissism. What's your thoughts on that, man? Because that's a big one.
Yeah, we've had plenty of conversations about that. The most important thing that people need to understand is that at the end of the day, is that these celebrities and entertainers, it's like it's a role, guys. Right. They're playing a part. All right, so you'll see it. You'll hear someone's music. You'll see how they're acting, little clips and little funnies and stuff, and then it'll get in the interview, and you'll be like, "Wow, this is a whole different person." Or like, "Wow, he actually seems pretty smart," or however you feel. It's like it's a facade to a degree. It's a gimmick, right? And the point of it is that wherever they did, maybe that's what got them going, what got them to where they are. But in general, it's that in their mindset is, I made it this far. Got to keep the money flowing however I can. So there's a lot of people that are just playing a role, and the
negatively
issue, just like and just like what me and Jordan say is that they're playing a role, and then you want it to be real life, and that's a big contrast and a big issue. Is that a rapper will go out and say, "I have so many enemies and stuff," and maybe they do, but maybe they don't. You'll hear that, you'll believe it, and then that's how you act. You act like you have a lot of enemies. And it's like, you don't have to live life like that. Even if it worked out for them, you don't have to live life like that. And just a further point on this, because this is something that's been weighing on me for a while.
Get it off your chest.
You look at what happened with P&B Rock, man. And it's very sad. My condolences to the family. I think it's a very tragic situation, no matter who you want to blame it to. But there's two parts of this that I cannot for the life of me understand. It's that one, at the end of the day, it doesn't, from what we know now, it doesn't look like there's even a motive for it. It was more just about greed and envy. Is that he had a certain amount of status and wealth, and the people who came in there was trying to take it from them and ended up taking his life. And a second part to this that I don't understand is that for some reason, we're living in some world where it's not a glorification, but it's a foreshadowing of the incident that happened. So it's like a lot of people are trying to blame the girlfriend, or a lot of people are trying to blame P&B Rock. But why don't we just start at the fact that the person's fault is the person who came in to rob the guy and then ended up shooting him, right? And how does this all tie in? And how does this all tie in? All ties in with the fact that we're talking about outside motives, outside motivations. People have phantom enemies. They feel like people are against them. Well, that feeds on you at some point. That feeds on you on the inside. And further along, you start getting depressed about it and stuff. Like that guy, it's crazy to me that guy not only went in there and killed him for greed and for robbery, but also there's people behind him that don't even acknowledge the fact that happened, and they're looking at everything else that could have been the problem with it.
Absolutely,
I just have to get it off my chest. I just couldn't. I can't understand it, man. I think it's a terrible thing. I think it's something that what we talk about is that's a very huge danger with all these outside motivations of what you think you should be over,
right? And heavy is the crown, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people want to be like, the top dog. People want to be seen. Like, it's really not about that. The hate's gonna come with, fame or whatever the case may be. But I wouldn't romanticize in a way where like for people like us, it's like, it's not cool to have that, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or do we probably have people that hate on us? Sure, but we shouldn't care about that, and that shouldn't be our thing, because there's cons and there's bads to this, right? So although extrinsic motivation is a great motivational tool at times, the dynamics within these concepts are rooted in inconsistency, right? In severe cases, it can lead to someone being motivated by a false reality or a delusion. Like, that's not even living in the reality of the world, like thinking that they got fake, these fake ops or somebody that's really preying on their downfall every single minute, right? In terms of brain chemistry, and y'all get on me all the time about the science talk, but in terms of brain chemistry and operations, like the neurotransmitters, such as like serotonin and dopamine, those productions decrease. So like these dopamine and serotonin are associated with pleasure, reward system, and feelings. So I want to make this very brief though, but what are some other cons that come to mind? I'll start with you, Trey, in terms of being extrinsically motivated.
I think one con that you can find out just by being extrinsically motivated is that you don't really know why you're doing things. Like, it's not really benefiting you and giving you satisfaction. You're doing things for somebody else, which you'll never be able to fully fulfill that max effort, that max production if you're just trying to do something for somebody else, or because you see that somebody else has something, so you're just going to go do that so you can be like them.
Right, absolutely. And I'll pan to you, Hale. I'll ask you that same question. Like, what are some other cons that you could think of that are associated with that being extrinsically motivated?
Yeah, man. Another con for sure is if something were to happen to where your extrinsic motivation is gone, then to a degree your whole motivation is going to be gone. So it is a real worry. Let's say if it's geared from a person or an outside figure or anything of that knowledge, it's something where
Right.
the outside figures, the motivation you're getting from that person is gone, then that can throw off everything that you're trying to accomplish in the first place.
Inconsistent. Yep. And those cons. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was kind of finishing up what I was saying. I was like, and also in addition, for some reason, that person that's trying to motivate you, just leading you down a bad path or changes course to where it's not benefiting you anymore would be my second point.
Absolutely. You could become obsessive and like I said, it's got addictive qualities to it. Like you can almost search for that type of stuff. Is like, man, I'm looking for the next thing to be motivated outside of myself and not looking within. That's why I call it gas, because that's why my comparison to gas makes so much sense to me, at least. Because you always got to go get it. Once you run out of motivation, I have to go fill my car back up. Once I run out of gas, I have to go fill my car back up. Once I run out of motivation, since I'm got this external locus of control, I got to go find something. And if you don't find something, you know what we're going to do? We're going to create it. And that's where false realities and delusions comes in. And another con for me is it lessens the enjoyment of attaining the goal, right? It really wasn't about you. It wasn't about you. You was just trying to prove somebody wrong. So it's really no joy in that.
Satisfaction.
Yes, it's going to reduce satisfaction, because it's like, man, it's like, man, I wasn't really doing this for myself. It was more so like I'm trying to prove them wrong. And like I said, it could be a good tool, but it also can be a slippery slope. But I want to get into intrinsic motivation. We talked about extrinsic motivation, but this episode is about intrinsic motivation. Like we talked about the pros and cons, right? And I call it the renewable energy source. It's like a Tesla to me, right? Just charge yourself up, man. You get the going. But before we get into dialogue on the intrinsic motivation, briefly, Hale, I want to start with you. Tell me why, in your words, why is building intrinsic motivation important?
Because extrinsic motivation speaks to more of our social nature. Look at me being a psychologist now, but and more speaks to our and more speaks to our social nature. We want to have a sense of belonging in the group. We want to. That's why it seems easier. That's why when you want to go to the gym, it's easier to go with someone. That's the point of it, right? But the importance of intrinsic motivation is the fact that one, you know yourself better than anyone else knows yourself, is one, and two, it's a lot easier for you to course correct based on your needs and what you are looking for, what you are trying to get, to further pursue your goal and how you want to pursue it. If it's based off of other people and you're in a position where you want to change, or you hit a metaphoric fork in the road or something like that, it's going to be a lot harder, because you have that sense of you got to convince someone, or maybe that person won't support you anymore. In terms of when you're intrinsic, it'd be a lot easier for you to make the proper adjustments that you would need as you go to accomplish what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. You speaking to my point specifically. Like one of the things that I think intrinsic motivation, it promotes that that persistent drive to see things through, to be thorough, to go through, like that stick to itiveness. Like I'm gonna see these things through. Like whatever I start, I'm gonna finish, right? And that's a real thing that we have to have, especially like I said in the last episode, especially when you going after something that's higher than yourself or trying to attain something that's gonna take a lot of work to do or to attain. And another thing that it does is that the motivation and work needed to go after something is readily available for usage. You do not have to go outside of yourself to be intrinsically motivated. It's intrinsic inside of you. So it's not like I have to go outside and find something for me to go after something. And like, it's like I can look within myself. I know my goals. I know my purpose. I just look within myself and I can, make the plan and the actions to go after this thing that I'm trying to attain. So you can just look within yourself and it's readily available. But with that being said, Trey, what's something for you on why building intrinsic motivation is important?
I would say that it's important because it helps you to fully realize like your highest potential, helps you like stretch out of your bounds, just like the outside motivation does. But it brings a different meaning when you do something like for you just because you felt like this is something you wanted to do. For instance, right. I had a friend who decided like 30 days before the time was to sign up for a marathon. He was like, forget it. I'm going to just sign up for this marathon. I want to do this.
Hale has done
this
one
is something
too.
I want to be able to do. He,
right.
He only took 30 days. He went vegan. He was running all the time. Like he was balls to the walls. Was completely taking care of his body, trying to revamp, trying to wholly refresh just to be able to run this mile in 30 days. And just the effort that he put in and the dedication that I saw, and then for him to finally come through and actually be able to finish his marathon, sorry, not mile, was like something cool to watch. It was like, see, that's what good intrinsic motivation is.
And you get to see like the whole process. You fall in love with the process of it too, right? And it's so self-fulfilling. Like I said, when you extrinsically motivated, it could kind of decrease the enjoyment that you get once you attain that goal because you've been so driven. Like, I'm gonna work, you know what I'm saying? It's some good motivation to use. But when you get there, it's like, I can't really enjoy this because I didn't really do this for me. I really did this to prove somebody else wrong or prove somebody else right or do something for somebody else. So it's self-fulfilling. It's self-rewarding. It's a byproduct of these things. It's pure and genuine happiness. Like if you know you put in the work to do something that fulfills yourself internally, that's in itself is like so rewarding that somebody can't take from you because you know the work that was in and you know that it was you that wanted to do it for whatever. Right. It was your essence that gets to see this and be in this glory for sure. So I want to switch to the next question. And what are we've talked about why it's important, right? But we also got to give some key elements on what's needed to when we're trying to build intrinsic motivation because it just don't come overnight. You don't just wake up and be like, I'm intrinsically motivation. I don't have I'm intrinsically motivated. Nobody does that. It's something that you have to work on. So I'm gonna go back to you, Hale. What are some key elements needed when going out and trying to build intrinsic motivation?
Yeah. Well, it starts with what you want. Like at some point you need to sit down and figure out what do you want? And what do you want that doesn't have to do with someone else? So that's really where it starts. And then once you get to that point, then you gotta, as crazy as this may sound, you gotta be comfortable with being alone. Honestly, right. You really have to learn to be comfortable with being alone. I want you to think about it. Think about the last thing you've ever done that was for you, by you. You went alone. You did it all by yourself. Trey talked about his friend that ended up doing a marathon. Just look at your life in general. What was the last thing that you did by yourself that wasn't a potential need? It was more something that you wanted to do. So you didn't go to like the grocery store by yourself, And what you will find is like there's a lot of things that you do, or more or less there's a lot of things that you don't do because you don't have the person to do it. And my idea for that, yeah. And what I think to that is like, dude, just go do it. Go out there and do it. Right. If there's some comedy club you want to go to the comedy club. If there's a 5K you want to do, which is what I did, go do the 5K just because you want to. You don't need other people around you. So it starts with that. Learn to be okay with being alone. I believe that's where it starts. And then from there, that's when you can start building it. And this is going to go to a huge mess of things that could be its own episode of itself. But to keep it brief, once you learn to be alone, then you start learning it's like, okay, well, I need to start building steps to get to where I need to go. Where some pitfalls, how do you deal with stress? How do you mitigate stress? There's a lot of caveats to it, but it really starts with that. Learn to be alone. It's okay.
Absolutely.
You will be all right.
Absolutely. So what you're speaking to is like being well within yourself to go after something, right? Not really needing no validation with that. And we need that support and validation because we social human beings at the end of the day. We need that support, but more so in the sense of like, I'm really doing this 99% of this because I want to do it. And it's self-fulfilling for myself. So with that being said, Trey, like I'm a pan that same question to you. What are some key elements or a key element needed when you're trying to build intrinsic motivation?
I think this is a great question for me right now because actually that same friend who ran the marathon recommended a book to me. It's called Atomic Habits. And it's about building small habits that like go and make you motivated and make you be able to accomplish things that you didn't know that you can accomplish. And by building those small habits like making your bed every day, or meditating every day, or things like that, going to work out, making those habits will make you feel better as a whole. And when it builds that mental health and you have that good like system working, like, okay, I feel accomplished today, it makes you want to go strive and do more things. And it kind of builds your inside motivation, that intrinsic motivation that we've been talking about.
Consistency, bro. Like you said, like hell, everybody kind of look and everybody kind of looking for things to get easier, right? Or things for it to be the perfect timing, right? And I got this, shout out to D-Lo, by the way, D'Angelo Russell. I got this tattoo that say now, right? I know that was a poor way of showing it, but it just kind of reminds me when I look down on my wrist to be where my feet are at, right? Whatever. And it's also like a double-edged sword and it's saying like, tomorrow is promised, but just not for all of us. So whatever you're willing to go for, even though it might take years to attain, it might take a day to attain. Start it now. Get the process going because you don't know how much time you got. We just on borrowed time here. So, and you don't know, and everybody got a due date that they don't really know. So for me, a key element, and it kind of piggybacks off of what Hale says, is to start the process of building intrinsic motivation is vital to have a clear understanding and acceptance of what your ultimate purpose is or like your overarching goal is in life. If you don't really know that, you're not really well within yourself or you're kind of chaotic, it's like you can't go after something higher than yourself if you're not good with yourself, right? And it's like you got to look at that man in the mirror, kind of come some type of like consensus, like idea, like this is what I want out of my life. Not in terms of like just career wise, but who I want to become or what I'm unbecoming from like unlearned behaviors, like all these things. So have a clear understanding and you have to accept that, like you have to sit in that. This is what it's going to be. And before you could go for anything higher, like what we're talking about now, this is higher things, right? These are like attainable things that come on a higher level. You have to be all in. Like Hale says, you just do it. You got to be all in and fully committed to it. So understanding your purpose, your ultimate purpose, your overarching goal in life, and working towards that, I think is essential because you can't accomplish and see something or go for something that you can't see or visualize, or you don't know where to go. Like you don't know the steps. You can't solve a problem with it. If you don't know the problem, how are you going to have a solution? So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this episode up. And it was a great episode, by the way, with final thoughts. Hale, I'll start with you. Any final thoughts from this episode?
Yeah, I really enjoyed what you said. And there's one little piece that I want to reiterate, make sure everyone understands, is that being alone forces you to be accountable. Okay? Ooh, and that's one of the biggest advantages of being alone. All right.
That's going to be an episode.
Being alone is going to force you to be accountable because there's no one there but yourself. So if you have a goal and you're alone and you're doing it and it doesn't work out, it's only you. And that's probably some of the people's biggest fear when in terms of being alone is that when I'm alone, everything that I do, I'm going to be 100% accountable for. There's no scapegoats when you're alone. I'm saying you need to push through that fear. You need to learn to be accountable. And then from there, you can start branching off. And like we always say, this is all for building a better you, a better life, whatever that means for you. It's not our expectations. It's your own expectations that you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. That's well said. Well said. Trey, I'll pan to you.
Definitely. I would definitely say is that you got to know that you get motivation from both inside and outside sources, and you should want to try to balance that as well as you can. Like, not saying everybody's balance will be the same, but you just got to know your limits and what makes you the best person that you can be, and you want to try to intertwine those. And I think the easiest way to start by doing that is making small habits, making those little steps that make you feel like you're productive. And then I feel like those will snowball into the bigger and better things. You might not see the process happening, or you might not notice the change that you're getting within the first month, 2 months, 3 months. But when that year 2, year 5, like, you'll understand, like, I took these steps when I was 20. I took these steps when I was 25, things like that. And now look where I'm at now because of those little habits that I formed at a young age.
Absolutely, man. That's well said. And I talk about this in my Friday class, right? Is like when we talk about learning behaviors, right? Is like it start with discipline, man. For me, like, and to wrap this episode up, it start with discipline, because discipline, and like, this is one of my sayings, is discipline leads to consistency, consistency form habits, and habits make up a lifestyle, right? So if you stay disciplined, right, if you go into the gym every day, now it's consistency, right? You bred consistency, and consistency, once you do it over and over, now it's a habit. Like, you're not even thinking about these things.
Right.
This is a part of your daily routine. You just
know that that's where you're going, to the gym.
And now it's a lifestyle, whatever that is. It don't have to just be the gym. It could just be thinking positive thoughts or whatever the case may be. But like, I think the overarching thing is knowing your purpose, knowing your goal, having that real conversation with yourself about, what do I want out of life, and what am I willing to sacrifice? Because life is about sacrifice. It's about choices. We got free will. God gives us free will. And I don't mean to put Christianity, but we have free will and reign. We can do whatever we want. Everything is a choice. Now, everything got a consequence too. So it's like, what are you willing to sacrifice? You can either sacrifice today and live a better tomorrow, or you could sacrifice, in the long run, like, I'll get to it later. You can sacrifice your future for what you want now, right? And that can come with regret. So you just kind of got to be well within yourself to know, like, how does that work for me? How do I tailor that to fit best my life, and then put a plan in action? But we'll get to that. That's not even for this episode. But I think having that overarching goal and purpose, and that conversation with yourself about, what do I want out of life, and what am I willing to give up, is where we can start. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in for this episode. It was a great episode. I'm glad to get back with the guys.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We really appreciate all the support and all the love, all the feedback. Keep giving that feedback that you guys are always doing. We really appreciate it.
Share, comment, like, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all those things. We want to get the TikTok rolling. I know we talked about that a little bit already. So make sure that we do these things, because we want to keep giving you guys great content. We want to give you the best content available, and do kind of motivate us in a way where it's like, dang, like, I'm gonna have to go for something higher. It kind of pushing me. You kind of get that validation, outside validation, when we talk about extrinsic motivation. Right. But I think those things are super, super important. And I think that'll be good. I want to know.
Golfing is ridiculous. He used to bet like $5,000 on like random putts and shit, just while they were just in the middle of the game.
I couldn't imagine going to a casino with him. I could not imagine.
He has to be a terrible influence,
bro. And I know he's the type of person who's like not that good. Like, he wouldn't be that good.
Oh, but yeah, but he just like got so much money it don't matter. He owns a golf course, and it costs, I think it's either $30,000 or $100,000 a year to be a member of this golf course, and only the members can get it. And Michael Jordan has to invite you to be in his club. You can't just sign up whoever. He invites you. And they have like drones that fly out on the golf course and deliver you food, like while you're in the middle of the golf course.